They don't need to have predetermined ideas of these kids are going to be rude to us or they're going to be physically aggressive or violent, because that's just not the case.
That's a mom of a Battle football team member chatting with KOMU Channel 8 after it was uncovered apparently during play-by-play Battle High School this past Feel Good Friday night. They're playing a game at North County, not North County, St. Louis. This is like Bonne Terre, Missouri. So, like, if you know where, if you know where St. Genevieve is, right down off of I-55 down south. If you're heading down south to St. Genevieve, you make a right-hand turn on one of those rural highways, and you cruise past all the cow pastures and stuff for about 45 minutes, and you land in a place called Bonne Terre, Missouri. And there they have North County High School. I don't know the football team's nickname. But they have, who is it?
The Raiders.
The Raiders. And here they have this. I'm assuming this is, and we're going to hear the audio of what this kid said, because that mom is reacting. She's talking about these stereotypes. You come in and you think a certain thing about the Battle High School football team. And I want to say this first. I don't know how old the kid was doing this play-by-play, but he sounds young.
They're students.
So they're high school students doing play-by-play.
On basically a local access channel, for lack of a better.
So it'd be like CATV in Columbia, cable access TV?
Exactly. And it was a live stream on the internet, too.
And so this kid is talking about, and he says, I've done some research on this Battle High School football team. And again, I always think, don't we all know not to say things like this? Don't we know? You just, and we'll play what the guy said, because I got to say, I think he's got some wiggle room, but as soon as I offer any kind of defense of the kid, oh, you're racist, no, I'm just asking questions, man, because we have a rich history in the national news outlets of completely mishandling racism. Racist events. Jesse Smollett, media completely buy into it, man, and they eat it up and they pour some milk over it, and heck, they bypass the spoon. They get a ladle and they eat that stuff up. And then when it comes out, the Jesse Smollett thing, it was a fraud. There was no racism and no reporting from a lot of the national news outlets. Nick Sandman, remember in Kentucky a couple years ago? Oh, racial epithets towards a Native American, and people like CNN and MSNBC and USA Today, they eat that stuff up without checking it. And I'll go to one just a few weeks ago. Duke volleyball player, BYU, saying she was playing volleyball and there were racial epithets being hurled her way. Security goes and they remove a guy. ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, everybody rides BYU. Can't believe you acted faster. You didn't act fast enough in removing that racist person from the gymnasium, and everybody passed judgment. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the one. Was that the where he was talking about the hairstyle of one of the basketball players? That one? That's the one, yeah. I'm talking about straight up mishandling of this stuff. And by the way, the Duke thing at BYU did an extensive investigation, and they banned this guy from the volleyball arena for life. Dude couldn't go to any more college volleyball games anymore.
That's since been rescinded, by the way, after they did a follow-up.
They did a big investigation, and, we've got all kinds of different camera angles. We have witnesses. None of this racist stuff that you were talking about, none of it happened. And the bigger problem is the media, man, they get on board. The national news outlets, they love these stories about racism. Oh, my God, look at how horrible the white people are. The problem is then when it proves to be false, and it happens fairly often, by the way, when it's proven to be false, they don't report on that. I didn't hear ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, blabbering on about, all those things I said and how racist BYU. I need to take that back, because it turns out it was all BS, but they jump on it from the get-go.
I mean, it happened here with the mask orders. It was in St. Louis County, and the health director said, hey, all these people are calling me, these racial slurs, and it barely got reported, right? Yeah. It was him.
So, oh my gosh, that was huge.
Yeah, that was my predecessor, Brad. That was during a basketball game, and I believe it involved the Mizzou athletic director at the time,
Mike Alden.
I think it was Sturk. Yeah.
That made national news headlines, and like Zimmer radio stations were kind of dancing around. I don't want to say lawsuits, but that got really interesting.
Yeah.
So it happens. So with that in mind, I want to play what this kid said.
But he's a kid again, right?
Yeah.
He's a student.
It's not great, but do we give him leniency because he's a kid?
Well, in keep in mind they've issued an apology. The school I don't want to interrupt. The school has issued an apology. They're going to use it as a teaching moment. But yeah, for context, it's probably good to hear. We're not using his name, and we don't know his name, and it wouldn't be able to use it anyway.
The teachable moment is don't say stuff like this when you're broadcasting high school athletics. Yeah.
I did some research on Battle. They're a team that gets kids from really rough situations and puts them in a school and gets them out of rough situations from football and stuff.
I think that almost sounds complimentary. Look at what this school does. They get kids out of bad situations and they help them with football. That's just me. I can be a buffoon sometimes. Stop it, Hannah.
They're pretty much a violent team, honestly, with their flags and.
Pretty much a violent team. And I again, the C word, context, where they getting penalized a lot. Cosmo, who hosts mornings on our on Y107, our top 40 station, says, yeah, there were a lot of flags apparently in that game. Maybe that's how that kid could have been saying that.
I again, without hearing the broadcast, I think it's clear he was talking about. But he should have phrased it differently. They're a penalized team, or they're getting a lot of penalties. That didn't come over very well. But again, it's teachable moment is what the school is saying. They have issued an apology down there at the North County High School from their, I believe it was their faculty advisor. I saw read the statement on Facebook, and it sounds like the CPS has accepted the apology. That's my impression. And they're still disappointed in the comments. But I know at least one person I saw on Twitter wanted to get that young man's Twitter handle. Yes.
And cancel him. That's terrible.
Well, I think they thought it was an actual radio station, but this was one person very early on. Haven't seen anything since then. Bottom line, that was a student, and it sounds to me like it was a live stream, and not an actual radio station. It's I don't know what to compare it to here in Columbia, but it would be. And maybe it goes out to the cable network there in that area.
It would be like somebody's got a cell phone. They come and set it up at the game and do play-by-play. That's my take on it.
That's basically right.
What do you think about whenever there's apology, and we do have a statement from that school, North County, which is in the Bonne Terre area. Apologies that say, we are very sorry if these statements offended anyone. Whenever you put that if, are you really... Which might be tactful and more truthful. Listen, I'm not apologizing for what I said. I'm apologizing if you got offended. What do you think of those? I always think, yeah, they're not buying all in on this apology thing. Welcome into, but see, you go after one of our local schools, and that's what we do in mid-Missouri. We back our local folks. Welcome into the show. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Ryan Hausworth is
Good to see you.
Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
There's Mr. John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. Welcome into the show. Glad you could be here. We got to give kudos to NASA. Man, they did it.
They are out of this world.
Yeah. And by the way, so NASA apparently, there's an asteroid. It's like, it's 7 million miles from Earth. Yesterday, I recall saying on the show, I want to fact check myself here. Something I said on the show yesterday as Stephanie was talking about this asteroid that's coming towards Earth, and NASA's effort to go, we're going to go bump it, try to change its direction.
Bocce ball.
Bocce ball, yeah. We're going to hit this to hit that to move it over there. Body check. We're going to body check this asteroid and maybe knock out the moon instead of planet Earth. One of the things I said on the show yesterday, I said, but the challenge is 25,000 miles away.
Yeah, when you said that yesterday, I was like, you might be a little underselling that.
I was off by 6 million 995 million miles. Just a little bit. I almost had it.
You're
man.
close.
It's close. And they're pretty excited about it. Here's the play-by-play a la Ricky Horton and John Rudy. Play-by-play from NASA.
It's amazing, guys. Oh my goodness, look at that. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Whew. Oh, wow.
3, 2, 1.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. And we have impact.
That sounds like about as exciting as the Excel Championships.
It sounds like they're calling a bocce ball tournament.
There you go. But they did it.
Yeah, they did, and that's a pretty impressive feat. And I like I'm guessing what they did was, hard.
Yes.
And I'm guessing they're all like intelligent and stuff. Maybe went to college and did some math. That's pretty. But when you're working on a big project, no matter if you're working on legal briefs or an interview or hitting asteroids with your spaceship, it's a big accomplishment. And you know how you feel when you've accomplished something massive.
In your world. Yeah, there's a video and they're all like hugging and all celebrating. It's sweet. I don't think they were like popping bottles of champagne or anything because they're pretty nerdy, but they were definitely excited.
I bought some apple cider. By the way, there's about 30,000 of these objects that could get in, that's in our solar system that could affect. Good morning. 30,000 of them.
Right.
Coming up, Daily DC Rundown. What's happening in DC this morning, Steph?
I love when there's like a name in the news that I haven't seen for a while. Remember like Sarah Palin? Edward Snowden back in the news.
How come he's back in the news? Stephanie has that story coming up 5 minutes from now. It is your Daily DC Rundown on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS.
States with the largest population have the most borrowers qualified for student loan forgiveness. California and Texas combined have almost 7 million eligible for up to $10,000 in loan forgiveness.
And in Missouri, those numbers, about 830,000 students eligible for loan forgiveness. And that's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
So the Biden administration told us it was going to be about $240 billion for the decade.
That's all?
But like Biden... and you guys have so many similarities. Apparently he's not very good at math. And now the Congressional Budget Office is saying, actually, it's going to be $400 billion over the next 30 years. That's almost double.
That's a little off. What happened?
That's a lot off. That's about your calculation to the asteroid over here. And, I think a lot of people are pointing out the same thing. This relief hasn't even been really been doled out yet. People haven't even started applying. And, if it's true, because the only way Biden, we heard Pelosi say, Biden can't use his authority to grant student loan relief. He kind of got on this technicality and said, well, it's an emergency, the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, well, the pandemic's over. So people are like, wait a minute, hold on. If you use this exception because we have this emergency, we're in this pandemic, and now you want to give out all this money, you can't have it both ways. Either we've got an emergency and we need student loan forgiveness, or we don't need the student loan forgiveness and the pandemic is over. I am still super salty about this because I paid my loans back.
Right? And by the way, we got a fact check. We're going to run it through with an O'Reilly factor later this morning.
And in 41 states, plus the District of Columbia, the average gasoline price is less than $2.99.
That's Joe Biden. Yeah. 8:10, I think we're going to run that through an O'Reilly factor and fact check that. All I need is a Google box and AAA gas prices. It took me 38 seconds to fact check that.
Hey, if you see some $2.99 gas, you call us. We'll find out where it is and we'll go. All right, so Russia granted citizenship to Edward Snowden, a name I haven't really heard much about him lately. I mean, obviously he's kind of been in hiding and all this stuff, but obviously ties between Moscow and Washington have never been worse. And so I wonder, is this the ultimate, Putin just being petty? Yeah, I think it is. Exactly. Brandon's flipping the bird.
Double-fisted number one. You're number one, USA. We're going to grant your boy, Edward Snowden, some comfort over here. He could be here. He'd be a citizen of Russia.
Well, and I guess some people might have been speculating, hey, they're looking for all the dudes they can right now because they're calling people up. And his attorney was quick to say, oh, no. He has never been in the Russian armed forces, so he is not eligible to be called up. So anyway, that's apparently been debunked by his lawyer. Also, the U.S. is set to offer more Ukraine-related aid. There's this, Don't Shut the Government Down stopgap funding bill that's going through Congress right now. I think it's going to have disaster assistance for Jackson, Mississippi. There's still some funds in there for resettling Afghans, and it will be some stuff to help households with winter heating and cooling. I got my bill this last month, and I was like, ooh, that was a little high. It's really hot. And now as we head into winter, there are, Missouri, I think, does a pretty good job on utility rates, but there are some states and some other countries that are really facing the pinch. And so here, we're just giving out free money all over the place.
Oh, there's plenty. We just watered the money tree out back. We're good. By the way, temp this morning, think about starting to use natural gas. We get into winter in the deeper parts of fall here. It's 45 right now.
Right now? No way. It's yesterday afternoon was so beautiful. So anyway, a lot more money for Ukraine in that bill. Also, Kamala Harris didn't tell us her full plan, I guess, for her visit over to Asia yesterday, and she is visiting the demilitarized zone, which Pelosi visited earlier. Obviously, tensions are super high, and it gives me a lot of tension that she is over there representing the U.S. right now.
Man, anytime whenever Joe or Kamala, whenever they travel on the worldwide stage or the worldwide stage comes here, makes me, it's like, when you got a 4-year-old kid and they've dropped a branch across Grindstone Creek and you're trying to navigate that little branch across the creek and it makes you nervous as a parent.
I think it's more about them in church raising their hand and you're like, oh, what are they going to say?
Coming up, Christopher Arps, ChrisArps.com. He is going to be joining us. Missouri personal property taxes could be going up, and this could be affecting everybody. That story coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Hi, I'm Becky Arps, and I am so excited that you get to experience a bit of the thoughts I hear every single day. Enjoy.
Chris Arps from the website, chrisarps.com.
CHRIS.
Newsmax TV.
CHRIS.
All the time. Jefferson City. Hanging out in Jefferson City. Chris, I got to tell you something. Chris Arps, he knows Missouri politics. Very few people that know Missouri politics better than Chris. Website, chrisarps.com. See him on Red State TV all the time. Chris comes, and he's based in St. Louis. Now has an afternoon radio show in St. Louis. Excited for that. Hanging out in mid-Missouri over the weekend. Went to Oktoberfest in Jefferson City. And it was kind of like we had a play date, honest to goodness. We did Oktoberfest. The highlight of my day, seriously, was going and watching Stephanie give a presentation on some important stuff at some important event. That was the highlight.
And the highlight for me was you and Chris holding hands, skipping in the background as you were trolloping through the actual meeting playing.
So, thank God there's no pictures of that, but anyway.
Well, I did feel I felt like a kid in the back of the classroom first day of college trying to be the smart aleck, even though I wasn't trying to interrupt because I didn't know what was going on, but I knew it was an important event because Stephanie Bell was there.
Right.
Yeah.
And what was
we were
event?
Just sitting back there like, wow, we know her. That's what we were just sitting back there in awe.
And Chris's wife, Becky, was there. It was the Republican State Committee meeting.
Which, by the way, if you find yourself at a Republican State Committee meeting on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Jefferson City,
I even told you, hey, Branden, you can take off if you want to, man. You know, I don't want you to be here at a state Republican meeting on a Saturday, beautiful Saturday afternoon. So you can go ahead and take off, man. I've seen you.
So Chris did.
Done your duty.
He's like, dude, you can go. I'm like, oh, thank you, Chris.
I know. That's about almost how it was.
Yeah.
You know what, Branden? I want to tell you something. When we went to that car show today, or last weekend, it was really great to see those little cars, but, you know, it made me feel old. You know you're getting old when you go to an antique car show and all the cars are from, like, your birth decade and the year that you and the decade that you grew up. 60s and 70s cars. It's like, these aren't vintage. Yeah, they are.
I think Marsh had the same takeaway.
Exactly. It's like, where are the 1930s and 40s cars? You know, those are vintage old cars, not cars from the 70s.
Hey, I want to give you some love here. National publication. You write for Red State all the time. Another national publication has picked up some of your work, the National Center. When I get to that, one of the other highlights of my day, there was a guy, and this is the way I recall the story, Chris. And if I've got any parts wrong, you fill in the blanks.
No, I did have a beer, so I might not be the one to, remember, but we'll try it out.
So we're walking through this car show in Jefferson City. It's an incredible car show, by the way. It's legit, man. And this dude, I see him. He's walking out trying to catch, this stream of people swimming by at the car fest. And he's got some kind of campaign shirt on. And he's like swimming through the crowd almost. And he's bypassing everybody. And he comes up and he finds me and Chris. And I'm like, that was odd because I watched him the whole time, like he was seeking us out. Then it occurred to me when I saw that his name is J. Don Salcido, and he's a Democrat running for the 60th District State Rep seat. I thought, oh, Chris, he's stereotyping. Chris is black. Chris is a Democrat. I'm going to go find this guy. Did you see how many people he bypassed in that crowd to find us?
I thought he was trying to find you.
No, I think he was trying to find you. Look, a Democrat.
You know what? I never really noticed that until you just said that. I think you may be onto something.
Chris, you got to watch out for this. Man, great stereotyping behavior happens more. We got to look for it. You got to look for it. It's out there.
I think, when I think back on it, I think he did speak me out. I'm like, sorry, I live 100 miles away. Can't vote for you.
Not in your district, man. By the way, it's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
And if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you would see whenever I was talking about if you find yourself at a Republican committee event on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, then maybe you should have seen the look Steph was giving me, and you can when you watch us on YouTube. Just search Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Mr. Marsh. Producer Hannah is here.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. But it was a great conversation with this guy that kind of epitomizes what we see on a national level. This guy starts talking about how he's been a teacher in parochial schools and all this. And I said, well, Mr. Salcido, you've got kind of an interesting perspective on this, having been a teacher and having taught in Catholic schools. What's your take, when it comes to transgender issues and addressing people by whatever? And you remember the answer he gave, Chris?
No, not really.
Because he didn't give an answer. He said, well, I think it's up to each local school district. And I said, Mr. Salcido, that's exactly what you and your kind, now I'm stereotyping, that's what
you did say that.
That's what you and your kind do. You guys, you lie and you don't answer these tough questions. Here, I think you've got beautiful perspective. A teacher in the parochial school districts, and I'm asking you your opinion on this, and you don't want to give it because it's not a judicious thing for you to do, considering you're a Democrat. It was an interesting experience, Chris.
It was. And afterwards, Brandon, I looked him up. He did very, very well in his Democratic primary. He got 100% of the vote.
Marsh, I'm guessing that means he ran unopposed. But it was just interesting because, we can sit here and talk about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Joe saying 41 states have gas prices under $3 a gallon. What the hell are you talking about, Joe?
Yeah.
You can have Kamala saying the border is secure, and you have it locally when you have somebody who's running for the seat currently held by Dave Griffith, not giving an honest answer. It's that mindset. I keep going back. It's a mindset.
Hey, Brandon, did he come across to you as a super wild-eyed, progressive liberal or just an old-school kind of Democrat? He didn't come across as crazy. I mean, he was a Democrat, but I didn't see him as like AOC Jr. or anything. Did you?
No, he's not crazy, just misinformed.
Well, what's the difference?
Yeah, he just doesn't know what he's talking about. And when he doesn't know what he's talking about, he doesn't answer questions. It happens on him.
So he fit right in then.
Yeah.
Politician.
The hypocrisy of these people. By the way, I want to give Chris Arps, chrisarps.com. I want to give you some love. National publication. National Center picked up on a piece you wrote called Martha's Vineyard and the Left's Hypocrisy on Illegals. We know it's just stunning that you would be a sanctuary city. You hang up that plaque in your city hall, but then when it's time to actually do sanctuary city stuff, oh, my knee hurts. I can't play. I got to go home. What's been your take on all of this?
Well, first, nationalcenter.org, they are the national group that Project 21 is the umbrella for Project 21. So I wrote this piece for Project 21, but it was dealing with the migrant situation in Martha's Vineyard and how illegal immigration, affects African Americans and other minorities that are here in this country legally or are citizens. And so I just wrote a piece for them about that, showing the hypocrisy of these liberals and that they have a history of hiring illegal aliens. If you remember back during the Clinton administration, he went through 2 attorney general nominees before he got to the woman that eventually became Janet Reno, because both of them had nanny problems. Remember that? They had hired nannies and weren't paying payroll taxes on them, and they were illegal. So this is a pattern for the Democrats, and I think that the reason that, and I write about this, the reason Martha's Vineyard is accepting all of these Hispanics, because they want more workers. It's a rich enclave. The average house there is $1.5 million median income. They want more workers. That's why they don't deport these people and do what's necessary. And they say they are not a sanctuary city. They are a sanctuary community. They literally say that. That's the difference.
I think there was a lawyer involved there. Word choice.
Says our staff attorney with Ellinger and Associates, Stephanie Bell. It's a really, really good piece, and the whole thing has just been incredible. And here's the other thing, and I'll listen because I always seek to understand first, but I don't understand why our friends on the progressive left and on the CNN and MSNBC, I can't believe DeSantis did this, but that's the most wonderful thing I think as a human being to do, to foot the bill to send somebody to a sanctuary community, not a city.
Yeah, and Brandon, it's not like they're transporting them in the back of 150-degree trucks. These people are being transported on nice luxury buses. They're being flown on airplanes. I fail to see the cruelty here. Do you?
I really don't, and I have to check myself because, as I learned from producer Hannah a couple of years ago, I have preconceived biases. Not bias. I believe what I already.
Is that white privilege?
Yeah. What was the lesson you taught? No, it's not white privilege.
Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. That's what I have. Confirmation bias. But I really listen, and I think I'm like, no, DeSantis and Abbott. They're sending people to sanctuary cities on, as Christopher said, air-conditioned buses. This is a beautiful thing.
Snacks.
What's that?
No, they got snacks. You think they're finally feeding them too? I mean, give me a break.
That's what I think too. Can you hang out some more?
I can.
All right, because I want to get your take on, and as a matter of fact, right here in a mid-Missouri courtroom yesterday, this lawsuit regarding the voter ID law moving forward. Want to get your take on that. Chris Arps, ChristopherArps.com. You see him on Newsmax TV all the time. By the way, check out his piece, the nationalcenter.org, nationalcenter.org, Chris's piece, Martha's Vineyard. And
on school safety, mental health, the CHIPS bill, you name it. Every single thing that we've been able to work together on. Now, we've got some very big differences, as you know, but every single thing that we've had an opportunity to work together on, she's been a leader of and involved in.
Mitch McConnell throwing all kinds of love towards a fellow senator. Who is it? You might be surprised to find out who it is he's all loving on. That's coming up about an hour from now. We'll do that. 7:50 this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS. Welcome to the show, Stephanie Bell. I am Branden Rathert. John Marsh is here, too, along with everybody else. Christopher Arps, chrisarps.com. Love the website, constantly updated. And if you're listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, I think you're going to like Chris's website, chrisarps.com. One of the things we're talking about now, personal property tax bills. Personal property tax, especially on your car, blows me away. I'd left Missouri. I don't know, I'd been gone for 25 years, came back, bought a car, got a tax notice. I politely went to the Boone County Courthouse, say, no, see, I already paid tax when I bought this car. And they said, no, you pay taxes on that just because you own it. Blew me away. And now, Chris, it looks like personal property tax bills could be going up.
Yeah, this is insane. And this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing that's happened with car shortages, and that, of course, has increased the value of used and new cars. And so, the taxes on that vehicle, of course, are going to go up. But it's just right now the last thing that Missourians need is a tax increase. And once, everything recalibrates and gets back to normal and car prices start coming down, a used car, a car in general, is a depreciating asset. Yes, it may have appreciated because of this extraordinary circumstance, but what's that going to last? A year, maybe 2 years? I think the proposals of rebating these supposedly increases is the right thing to do. I mean, it's just insane to think about paying more taxes in this economy, and especially on an asset that's depreciating.
My husband and I had a lesson learned. My father-in-law really should have been in business, and he had like a covered trailer, and we had been using it for a couple of years, and he goes, I want to gift this to you. And we thought, well, isn't that so nice? And he said, oh, no. You're going to have to pay taxes on that at the end of the year. And we were both like, what?
And he still gets right of first refusal anytime he wants to use it. That's how.
Yeah, that's it's like what your dad said and what you said, Branden. I mean, it's absolutely insane that you buy a vehicle and basically you have to pay the state every year for the privilege of owning it. That's insane.
Blows me away. Gary Nolan hosts the Gary Nolan Show weekday mornings, 9 o'clock here on the radio station. He does spectacular work in breaking down this idiotic property tax.
But I endeavor to have my property tax be less than like $100 only because my cars are so awful. And so that's one way to get around it is, just have Branden, your car's over 100,000. Both my cars are over 100,000. So my property tax gets lower every year just because I refuse to buy a new car.
Yeah. So heating bills are going to be going up. Your personal property tax you're going to be paying on your cars because cars went up. Now mine. So my car is almost as old as producer Hannah. So I'm always looking.
That's hard to believe.
I know. Hannah, how old are you this year?
22.
22. My car is 16 years old, coming up on 17.
Oh, wow.
years
You
now.
weren't joking.
Yeah, it's an old car. And it's got 145,000 miles. So I'm always looking, and it has been going up because at first, a couple of years ago, I'm like, oh, look, the value of the trade-in values. Oh, but look, the thing I want to buy has also gone up, so it's a wash for me. But now I'm on the losing end because the value of my car, the value of your car has gone up too. And so when you get your tax bill, it's going to be a lot larger this year. We're just letting you know that.
Another age thing. I'm old enough, and you are too, Branden. You remember The Price is Right in the 70s. Great game show.
I watched The Price is Right. Come on.
Well, here's where I'm going. Here's what I'm going with that. Is I can remember The Price is Right when someone would be bidding on a car or something, and the new car would start at like $3,000, $4,000. And of course, over the years, it gradually increases. But it's just insane to me that you can't get a nice new car now for like under $25,000. Yeah. That's like the starting price for a new car. insane to me.
I was perusing old copies of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch from when Mark McGwire hit his 70th home run, and that was, late 90s? So it's 20, so that's 24 years ago. And you see the ads in the newspaper from 1998 for cars and bacon and Progressive soup.
Well, and you think about it, and really the financing is what gets me. You know, people are regularly paying over $1,000 a month for cars, and they're saying this whole thing with the Fed and everything else, that's what it's going to, affect is your payments on things like cars.
All right, Chris Arps, ChrisArps.com.
And they're paying that for years.
All right.
10 years.
Chris, check out his website, ChrisArps.com. When do we see you on Newsmax next?
Friday
morning. Look for Chris Arps on Newsmax. We love you, man.
Thanks.
All right, be good. Coming up, Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Tergin. We're going to talk about those properties along Capitol Avenue, raises for city employees, and how that's all going to affect us. That's happening at 7:10.
We would like to save as many as possible if we have people that want to invest in them. I mean, the city's not going to invest in them, but our goal would be that if there are individuals that want in the community that want to come in and want to invest the dollars, and some of them are going to be fairly expensive, we'd like to see that. But if not, we need to clear them out and get them ready for other development on Capitol Avenue.
City Councilman Ron Fitzwater in Jefferson City recently talking to our news partners at ABC 17 regarding those properties along Capitol Boulevard. Jeff City been kind of in bad repair for a while. That tornado 3 years ago certainly didn't help matters. So we've brought in Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Tergin to talk about this a little bit. Welcome in, Mayor. And I want to ask you this. So we had Ron Fitzwater on our show, and I pitched this idea. And I don't know if he's brought it up to you yet, if he's pulled you aside out there in the hallway, but here's my idea. Can't we get like one of these reality shows, you know, they do the big home makeover, get them to come and remodel some of those homes. We get lovely coverage from national media right here in mid-Missouri, and they fix all those homes up for free. Boom. Did Ron bring that idea to you yet? You sound like you're my mom just trying to be really polite. Well, Brandon, that's a nice idea, but that's what... All right. Gotcha. We can work together on this. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hausworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah joining us. And, of course, Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Tergin is here, too.
For me, part of the sadness of Capitol Avenue is it's a prime spot for residential redevelopment. And how important is that residential redevelopment for downtown?
Mayor, we appreciate you joining us live in studio. As always, I want to ask you about a different topic, but one that's very important. And for people in Jeff City right now that are waking up, especially those of you in Jefferson City, if you look right now at the Missouri Capitol, at least for the next little bit, you will notice that the Capitol is lit orange right now. So is the governor's mansion, and that is under the order from the governor, and it's to raise awareness about Hunger Action Month. The governor held a food drive last night on the mansion lawn. The Lincoln University football team was there, and the governor's encouraging people to volunteer at a food bank. Mayor, I talked to the Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft, and in Sedalia, he was warning about, he said it's a bipartisan issue. He said it's getting harder and harder for children and families to get food with these prices going up. What are you hearing in Jefferson City specifically about the hunger needs and what's happening with families there?
How are we doing? Like we, as a community, financially, I know obviously you were hanging out Saturday. We were all hanging out, I think, at one point or another at Oktoberfest in Jefferson City. The car show was amazing. Chatting with local businesses, High Rise Bakery, Coffee Zone, places like that. How are we doing? I mean, business, especially, I guess I'm thinking I always think back to our small local businesses, whether it's Fulton, Columbia, Jefferson City. What's the mood you think of small business owners in Jeff City? And it's a great date night idea, by the way. Walking along the Capitol at night and the veterans, the memorials and things back there, and walking out onto the park. It's great.
You just got to decide which one.
Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Tergin joining us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. All right, Carrie Tergin, mayor of Jefferson City, joining us. By the way, Scott, to our idea, he says Bargain Mansions, which is a TV show based on it's a Kansas City show based on Kansas City TV station. All right. Mayor, we just might need some help getting around some of those development rules and codes, though. We might need your... All right. All right, Carrie Turgeon. Anything else you'd like to add to be of service to the citizens here? And by the way, we're talking about the development and the businesses and the things to do in Jeff City. And I get excited for this whole area because I know like Nick Parks and what he's doing in Columbia and in Ashland with that Lakeside Ashland project where, you know, it's a stay and play destination. What's happening there in Ashland. I mean, really in all of mid-Missouri. We all want everybody to do well. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Hey, by the way, a very good friend of the show here is giving you a run for your money on that selfie queen status. You're aware? All right, Mayor, thank you for joining us here this morning on the show. Selfie
There we
with
go.
Stephanie, the selfie queen 1 and 2. Both. Hey, how often in history does that happen?
We have a couple selfies together. They're very powerful.
Coming up a little bit later here on the show, absentee voting begins today, 7:35. Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon's going to be joining us, some things that you need. And if you are a registered voter and you are a Republican, she may especially need some of your help. Coming up, 7:25.
Well, a lady has gone viral for kind of a weird way that she applied for a job.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
It's 7:25.
time for What's Hot With. Is that 2 days in a row?
I still think you're doing it just to prove a point, but
I'm doing it because that's what's been asked. Hey, can you do this stuff on time now? And so now I'm trying to do it. 7:25 for years. So if you're newer to the show, several years ago, we said, let's do What's Hot with Hannah. Talk about cool things. And that way, when folks get into work after listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, they'd have this cool story they could talk about. We posted on our Facebook page, but we as a team are always running behind. And for years, it took us 3 years to get that nailed down at 7:25. Usually it's 7:28.
I don't know if you can say we nailed it down when it's only been like 3 days. But it's something. It's progress.
A little bit of progress. What do you have for us today, Hannah?
So today's story actually went viral on LinkedIn, which is not typically a platform that has fun stories go viral. I don't know if you're familiar with LinkedIn, but it's very much a like professional networking type of app.
Do you have a LinkedIn,
Yes,
Brandon?
I do.
What?
What?
Yeah, go check it out. It's got stuff on there from I think I haven't updated it since the Boise days because it's got audio from when I was doing news at a radio station in Boise.
I'll have to check that out. So you don't see a lot of fun things go viral on LinkedIn, but this lady named Carrie, who lives in California, actually went viral for how she applied for a job at Nike. She knew that Nike was having a big celebration for what they call their Just Do It Day. They're going to have a lot of big sports superstars there at Nike headquarters in Oregon, and she decided to shoot her shot, no pun intended. And she sent a cake over from one of the local grocery stores, and she had her resume printed on this cake. So she sent a cake from a couple states away with her resume and her name in big font printed on it, just trying to get a job at Nike.
That's pretty slick.
She, in essence, kind of crashed Nike's party with this cake. You know, she wasn't invited or anything like that. Crashed the party with the cake, and it conveniently had her resume on it. She wasn't aware of Nike actually hiring anybody, but she just decided to give it a shot anyways.
Do you ever hear this trick? Back when I was younger and always trying to, get to the next biggest market or whatever, somebody would say, here's what you do when you think you're at the spot wherever you're about ready to, you're not sure if you're going to get an interview yet. You get a pair of shoes and you send one of them to the hiring manager or to the general manager. You send it to them, you ship it to them. They open it up there at their desk and it says, thanks for letting me get a foot in the door. How about letting me get the other one in?
That's cheesy. I have heard folks who are like in sales who do a lot of cold calling, who can't get folks to like call them back, buying like a cheap track phone and then mailing it to somebody and then call it, and then you get a phone in the mail and then it starts ringing and you're like, do I answer it? And then that's a good way to start talking to folks.
This is like the Bourne Identity. Here's a burner phone.
I'm trying to imagine myself. Like, would I be like, oh, this is creative, or would I be like, this is creepy and I'm mad about it?
Also, if a random cake showed up at my door, I probably wouldn't eat it because that's kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Just, people sending you random food.
It's like somebody sent the Kardashians a bunch of pizza one time.
Remind me, it'll have to be off air, guys, but remind me to tell you this.
Oh, no.
Story.
Now, flowers all day long. Send lots of flowers.
When a competing morning show in town sent donuts to another radio station.
You sent them or you received them?
Well,
he definitely sent them. Look at the look on his face.
Were they like filled with toothpaste or something?
Mayonnaise?
Oh, I can only imagine.
Coming up a few minutes from now. Hey, if you're a Republican and you're a registered voter, Boone County Clerk could use your help. And what you need to know about absentee voting, it's underway today here in Missouri. Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon going to be hanging out with us about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Good times. Easy credit rip-offs.
Yes.
Good times.
Dynamite.
Ain't we lucky we got 'em. Good times.
Man, I wanted to play that there in case you missed that. That went down on this show on a Feel Good Friday. That was about 8:45, September the 23rd, 2022. We just happened to play Good Times theme song. Brian was talking about some big thing they did on the TV and just happened to play the song, and he broke out into song.
He was feeling good on that Friday.
Beautiful. This needs to go into the Wake Up Mid-Missouri Hall of Fame.
For sure.
The day Brian Houseworth sang Good Times. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS. My name is Branden Rathert. To my left is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
If you're watching on the YouTube channel, she's actually off to my right. You can watch the show. And then you're watching on the YouTube channel and you see producer Hannah and her smiling face.
Hello.
Usually. Brian Houseworth is here. There's John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. All right, today in Missouri, you can start voting. Absentee voting today. Brianna Lennon, Boone County Clerk, joining us on the show if we're going to do this today. Am I wrong? But the most important thing I need to come up with is an excuse, first of all. Is that accurate?
That is true.
All right.
Yes, that's true.
Can I just pick one off a spinning wheel? Can I just pick, here's the reason I'm using, or does it need to be fairly legit?
So we do have a list of 6 of them, and they're listed in our office too. But
so it's multiple choice?
It is multiple choice. By far the most popular one is people that are going to be out of town. But the law changed this year, and anyone that is a first responder, a member of law enforcement, or a healthcare worker, that is now a valid excuse for voting absentee. So that's going to open it up to a lot of people in Columbia.
Well, that's cool because I think, for example, the EMTs, Task Force 1, who gets called out all the time, Gail Blomenkamp and that crew from the Boone County Fire Protection District, they get called out all the time all across the country to handle natural disasters, and they could be leaving here in the next day or two potentially to go to the hurricane in Florida. There's people here that then might say, hey, I could be here for the next 45, 43 days, 42 days until the election. This has value.
It does, yeah. They can come in and they can vote, and or they could request a mailed absentee ballot. But it's absolutely easier to come into the office. What people do need to know is the photo ID law change does apply to in-person absentee too. So if you're going to come in and absentee vote, make sure that you bring your driver's license, a Missouri driver's license, or your passport, or a military ID. Something with a photo that's issued by the state of Missouri or the federal government.
Well, and new this year, or I guess new for November also, you only need an excuse up until 2 weeks before the election. Is that right?
Yes. Starting October 25th, anybody can absentee vote for any reason. They don't need to tell us a reason at all. They can just come in and say that they want to absentee vote, and they can.
So what about off-site locations? So anybody can come to the Boone County Clerk's office and vote. That's kind of, always available. But you've also done kind of these off-site locations. Are you planning that again?
Yeah, so we use, we did that in 2020, and I think we'll still use that as a model. Some of the planning has been kind of on a slow burn because there is still litigation about this particular part of the law and the photo ID part of the law. So we have not finalized anything yet because we still have until the end of October. But for now, the only place to absentee vote is in our office.
So you're right. So there is this litigation. We've heard about it. It was, I think, in court last Friday here in Cole County over. But really, the early voting stuff is not being challenged. It's all over photo ID. But those are interconnected. Can you explain those to our listeners?
Yeah. So with the new law, there are 2 parts of it that are interconnected, that if one part of it gets struck down, then the other part also gets struck down. And that is the photo ID part of the law and the early voting part of the law. So if the court decides that the photo ID part is not in effect, if they decide that that part's going to be taken out of the law, then that no excuse absentee 2 weeks goes with it.
All right. Our guest Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon, absentee voting begins today. So if you're in Randolph County, Montauk County, you're interested in absentee voting, you contact the county clerk in your office there. They'll get you all hooked up. Brianna Lennon, Boone County Clerk, joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, so there is a component if you do not have a photo ID. When you go to vote, there is a blue provisional ballot. You get the exact same ballot as you would if you did have the correct ID, but you're going to have to put that in a blue envelope. You'll have to fill out your name, your address, some personal information, and then 2 election judges of opposite parties are going to assist you fill out the bottom of that envelope, and then after the polls close on election night, those election judges will bring back the ballot to our office, and we will check to see if the signature on the ballot matches the signature on your voter registration record. And we've had that for a number of years. Blue provisional ballots have been used since 2017, so we expect that a lot more are going to start being used. But since we've been doing them in 2017, we've never had an instance where we have a bipartisan team that checks those signatures. We've never had an instance where they have thrown out a provisional ballot because the signatures did not match.
All right. And the other thing I'm wondering, am I out of line to ask you? So this is in the courts, this voter ID stuff. Do you have a preference as to how this turns out personally or from your professional position that you'd care to offer?
I think the only thing is the timing of it is the most important part for me. We're going to start training our poll workers. We're going to put out voter education, and it gets confusing if we end up having a law change in the middle of the election cycle after we started doing that. So my hope is that it gets done pretty expeditiously if it's going to happen. And then also warning people that the impact of this law that people need to be aware of is that they do need to have an ID, but also that there's probably going to be a much larger number of provisional ballots that get cast, which means that there may be a delay at your polling place. You may need to be prepared for the fact that it takes longer for people to fill out their ballots and those ballot envelopes if you have a lot of people voting by blue provisional ballot. So it may take longer when you go to vote. And the other thing is it may take longer if we get a huge number of provisional ballots. Those don't get counted on election night. So if there's any close races and provisional ballots hang in the balance, then that's something to consider as well. So we're going to be letting people know that that is the expectation of what happens as a result of the blue provisional ballots. I just want to make sure people go in with eyes wide open about it.
So it would be a long night for us, the night of November the 8th, potentially, while News Radio 104.5 KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle, we're sitting waiting for results. It could be long nights.
Well, it may not be a long night. It may be a long couple weeks because we won't have those provisional ballot results until we start the certification process.
All right. Are you still looking for Republican poll workers, volunteers on Election Day?
Absolutely, we are. Poll workers are definitely needed. We have a sign up on our website, and we will start training election judges next week. So if you want to sign up, you can go to our website. It's vote.boonemo.org. And there's information about how to sign up to be a poll worker there.
And one of the things I applied for, it was actually a paid position, but I couldn't get, I had to do the show that morning of the 8th. It's kind of an important day for me to be here instead of volunteering at a poll. Brianna Lennon, Boone County Clerk. Anything else you'd like to add to be of service to the folks here in mid-Missouri this morning?
If you are not already registered to vote, you still have time. The deadline is not until October 12th, so make sure that you get registered so that you can vote on November 8th.
And the other thing with that photo ID, here's the one that's getting by a lot of people. You got to have a photo ID. It also has to be up to date. That thing with the expiration is getting a lot of folks. Brianna Lennon, Boone County Clerk, thank you for joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Check this out, Mitch McConnell.
On school safety, mental health, the CHIPS bill, you name it. Every single thing that we've been able to work together on. Now, we've got some very big differences, as you know, But every single thing that we've had an opportunity to work together on, she's been a leader of and involved in and is extraordinarily effective.
All right, who's Mitch McConnell bragging on? You might be surprised by the
very big differences, as you know. But every single thing that we've had an opportunity to work together on, she's been a leader of and involved in and is extraordinarily effective.
Extraordinarily effective, Mitch McConnell. I think, Steph, it was while you were gone, John Marsh and I were working on some of our impersonations of people. Who did you nail, Marsh? Beavis and Butthead.
I was going to say one of you.
It was Beavis and Butthead. But my Mitch McConnell impersonation. She's great. Who was Mitch McConnell talking about? The Democrat senator from Arizona, Kyrsten Sinema. They're at some event. University of Louisville's McConnell Center, who's named incidentally after Mitch McConnell. Kyrsten Sinema returns the volley.
In today's partisan Washington, it might shock some that a Democratic senator would consider the Republican leader of the Senate her friend. But back home in Arizona, we don't view life through a partisan lens.
Yes, you do. Come on, we're all doing it nowadays, aren't we? We all are viewing things from a partisan lens. And maybe I'm too hopeful. I always say I'll own up to it. Maybe I'm being too hopeful, being too optimistic that there's more of that kind of stuff. Now, some of the stuff we just can't get on board with. We can't agree. But is it being too hopeful? Is it being unrealistic to say, man, can't Mitch and people like Kyrsten get along? Joe Manchin, can he get along? Now, Chuck Schumer and Pelosi, no, we can't do that. But is it too hopeful to ask for this? Because I go back to 2 weeks ago, rose to Caleb Rowden. A week and a half ago, all those Democrat and Republican lawmakers all equally criticizing each other in a very fun way because it was a roast.
I think they just took the gloves off for one night. I think when they get back in January, I think we'll see some disagreements. But it was nice. And I mean, I do think, especially in the State House, they recognize they can look beyond the political and recognize these are people. Most of them can. And that's important to remember that these folks are human beings. But I think on a macro level, no.
Am I being too hopeful, Marsh? All right. I think we could see more. I don't know what I'd want them to get along for because there's very little that they do. People like Cinnamon, Pelosi, and McConnell. Very little that they do that I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. You mean you want to defund the police and you want to make me refer to people by the gender they aren't? Yeah, no good ideas there. Coming up here on the show, Joe Biden said this. I think this was yesterday. So this is on top of the statements that he's made. The border is secure. Kamala Harris, border is secure.
And in 41 states, plus the District of Columbia, the average gasoline price is less than $2.99.
So Joe Biden says the average price of gasoline in 41 states, plus the District of Columbia, is below $2.99. And I'm just thinking that can't be right. So coming up, I don't know. Maybe he's right. We're going to run that through the O'Reilly factor. Coming up at 8:10. Mike texting. He's in Lake St. Louis this morning. Thanks for listening on the app. 301 off of Lake St. Louis.
What?
301.
Huh.
And Terry sends one from St. Peters, Missouri. Man, we've got some folks listening in St. Peters and Lake St. Louis on the app. Man, yeah, we got that St. Peter's demo wrapped up, man.
I'm thinking I'm supposed to go to St. Louis later this week, and I'm thinking, can I run my gas tank down low enough and fill up while I'm there?
That's a great point. How many times have we talked about on our way cruising down I-70 to St. Louis, man? I get to Callaway County, and gas gets a little bit cheaper than in Boone. And then I get to the next county, and it's cheap. You get to St. Louis, it's cheaper. Terry, St. Peter's. $2.85 a gallon. That cannot be right. Is that a Costco? Don't you get a big discount at Costco anyway?
I don't know, but who has like some containers that we can take a road trip and fill up?
$2.85. I paid $3.69 yesterday.
Yeah.
$3.69. This dude's paying whatever the math is on that. If he's paying $2.89, paying $3.60, what is that? 80 cents?
I did notice this morning that Ashland is back down to $3.49.
Woo!
Ashland is giving us all whiplash, but everywhere else seems to be around like 350, 360-ish.
Sheraton County, $3.49 a gallon. Michael, we appreciate you checking in to Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning. Holy cow, somebody has even sent us a screenshot of gas, but yeah, St. Peter's, $2.82. You know what? We always joke, I'm not going to spend $18 in gas money to go save 5 cents a gallon. This is 80 cents a gallon compared to what I paid yesterday, $3.69 in Columbia, 80 cents a gallon to St. Peter's. If we get some people to start doing math, if I go to St. Peter's and buy this much gas...
But you got to risk your life to do it because, St. Louis...
Yeah.
Not a very safe place.
Well,
I guess way out there in the outskirts.
But they're not number one anymore for murder. Was it murders per capita?
Yeah. Can we give St. Louis a round of applause? They're not the murder capital of the United States of America anymore.
So proud of them.
Yay, St. Louis. We can thank New Orleans for that.
I was going to say, are they number 2 now, or
Yes.
how far did they fall?
We're like Alabama. We think we should be number 1, but we're only number 2 in the latest poll on murders per capita.
That is insane, though, honestly. Like, that's 80 cents. I mean, we should have a hearing about this. What on earth? I mean, I am shocked. When I said that earlier, I said, send me a photo of someone who's under $2.99. I'm speechless. What?
And why is it that cheap in the St. Louis area? I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you. I have no idea. That's significant. That's 80. I have it to 20. That's 16 $16 a gallon. That would be 40 60
No math on the show. It's too early.
I like to watch you flounder. You keep looking at me wanting me to tell you the answer.
Help me, Hannah. Throw me a life.
I'm going to get you one of those giant calculators, like a big one.
Like our giant texter here, 874-9390 is the text. So coming up at 8:10, maybe Joe was telling the truth when he said gas prices less than $2.99 a gallon in 41 states. We're going to fact check that. And something how Stephanie's kids embarrassed her at school yesterday. We'll do that at 8:10.
They don't need to have predetermined ideas of these kids are going to be rude to us or they're going to be physically aggressive or violent, because that's just not the case.
That's the mom of a senior for the Battle High School football team chatting with KOMU Channel 8 this after. So Friday night, Feel Good Friday, Battle High School football team, Battle from Columbia. And I don't know if they went over to 55, if they took 70 to St. Louis and dipped south onto 55 and then cut over to this town. I think it was Bonne Terre, Missouri, I think is where North County High School is. There's no good way there. You cut through country roads all the way between here and like Rolla and stuff like that.
That's a beautiful drive.
It's a beautiful drive. So I don't know if they went that way. Anyhow, so this is about, 45 minutes to the west of St. Genevieve, Missouri. And these Battle High School kids, they take a bus down there. I'm guessing a pretty long ride on a bus on a Friday afternoon. And I don't know if you heard, but the North County High School, they have like these high schoolers that call the games. And I guess, I don't know, some kid took his phone to a football game and he does the play-by-play. Wants to be like, who's the kid, Earl in Centralia?
Mm-hmm.
Earl Shannon.
Earl Shannon. Except this kid's like, Earl Shannon's like 14 years old, and this kid's really, really good. Does play-by-play for Centralia High School. So kind of the same thing. This kid in North County High School, Bonne Terre, Missouri. He's doing it, and some folks got upset by what he said during the broadcast. And we have reaction from that school, from North County High School there, and what they had to say. And I think Stephanie's right on track here. Now, this guy sounds really, really young. Not to say what he said was right, but I'm listening to what he said. And this is what's got folks upset. Man, you don't go and mess with one of our local mid-Missouri high schools. We'll represent. This is actually from the broadcast and what this kid said.
I did some research on Battle. They're a team that gets kids from really rough situations and puts them in a school and gets them out of rough situations from football and stuff. They're pretty much a violent team, honestly, with their flags. And
so they take kids out of bad situations and get them into football. And then he says they're a violent team. He's talking about the flags and stuff. I guess, was a bunch of penalties in the game? That I don't know, because folks are upset by this, and I can imagine. I don't have kids in Battle High School. They're closer to it than I am. But I'm wondering, maybe this kid, and because he's a kid, I think we'll even give him an extra helping of benefit of the doubt. But then
he's also a minor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we had somebody who apparently wanted to know his name. I mean, this was not an over-the-air radio station. This was not an over-the-air radio station. I think what he was saying there on the flag, and the terrible words on his part when he's saying they're a violent team, if that were cut off, it would be very misleading. But you played it, but he paused, but there was a 3-second pause, and he says with flags. I think what he was trying to say, I assume, is that they're a heavily penalized team. I'm guessing is what he was trying to say there.
Instead of saying violent.
I'm guessing.
Am I the only one that doesn't see an issue really with this?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't understand the outrage.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that people will be, oh, you're racist for, it's kid. Don't know exactly how old he is. It's kid saying the school does good things. They take kids from what I hear him saying, and we'll play it again. They take kids out of bad neighborhoods and help them with football. And then he's talking about flags. It's a pretty violent team.
I did some research on Battle. They're a team that gets kids from really rough situations and puts them in a school and gets them out of rough situations from football and stuff.
So they get kids out of rough situations, get them into football, some direction. That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, for that, though, Battle's a public high school, so it's not like they get to go pick who goes there. You know, like, you're still in Missouri, you're locked into whatever school you have by your zip code. So I would say that's slightly inaccurate, and I would say has a little bit of bias to it, I think, because it is inaccurate. They don't pick who gets to come there. Now, they might lift some folks into a program that do have bad situations, like every public school does.
Yeah, and I think it's also important. I did not hear the full broadcast. This was a live stream. It was not a radio station, which some people are still thinking it was a radio station. It was not, although there are commercial radio stations that do the North County games and that do the Farmington games as well. I live in that area. I know a lot of the young people there at Battle, and some of them I don't know, but some of them I do. And I will tell you that my experience with them has been very positive. That said, Northeast Columbia, it is a fact, and Roy Lovelady and Carl Scala, about the only thing they did agree on is it's the poorest area of Columbia, Northeast Columbia. The central city would be right with it as well. There's a lot of poverty. They need resources, but I don't know. I'm not sure how it came out there about rough, and they take people and get them into football. Again, I'm not sure how that came out, but it is a poor area. But as far as the students themselves, my experience with them have been very positive, positive.
And I think here maybe the trigger is that kid probably didn't go do research on the geographic location of Battle and the economic situation. He probably looked at the team and made some stereotypes. And that's probably where people felt triggered.
And then his final statement at the end.
They're pretty much a violent team, honestly, with their flags and...
They're pretty much a violent team, honestly.
Did he maybe mean aggressive? Like they're an aggressive
That's
team?
what I'm wondering, if he was looking for a different word, because he says, look at the penalty flags.
So what would the word be? Like, I'm thinking of a hockey team. If you play a hockey team and every week they're ending up in the penalty box and they're just known for, like, you know, playing rough, what is, as a sportscaster, Brian, what's the appropriate term there?
Goonish. Goonish.
Well, in hockey, it'd be a little, because it's a little different with hockey because there's a lot more fights and stuff. It's a tough situation because I don't know I just don't know, without doing the games like I used to do, are they penalized a lot every game? Or are the Jays penalized? I'm just picking Hawaii as whoever. Is it just one game? Maybe they just happen to have a lot of penalties in the one game. I don't know. I assume the referees from that game, by the way, were from Southeast Missouri.
874-9390, 874-9390. Daniel, welcome into the show. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Brandon. A little story about North County and Centralia, Missouri. I do believe it's been 12, 13, 14 years ago they met in a football game. And North County was highly rated in Class 4. Centralia was highly rated in Class 2, and I think they thought they were going to come up here and steamroll Centralia. Mm-hmm. And they had a highly touted recruit that was supposed to go to Nebraska, just a big old boy that was a linebacker and running back. And they were really shocked when they come up here and got manhandled by Centralia. They could not believe a small school was doing that to them.
Yeah.
And by the end of the game, he really had lost his cool and started, getting out of hand, and, they lost their composure.
Interesting. Yeah, our boys, they're corn-fed. That's the difference when you're facing a team from here in mid-Missouri compared to Southeast Missouri. Daniel, now let me ask you this. When you hear any of that play-by-play, does any of that take you back? Do you go, whoa, that was pretty stark there? Or it sound like a young kid just saying some stupid things?
It does, because it's just a different area. I think North County is more of the Farmington area.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Okay.
And so it's, it's not as, city as Columbia is.
All right. Daniel, thank you for the phone call. We appreciate you being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning. Stephanie Bell, Brian Hausworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah, and Branden Rathert. Dana is in Clark this morning. Dana, what's on your mind?
Good morning. I think it was a kid doing a kid thing, and he was speaking in ways that his peers would speak. I also don't feel that kid said anything too much different than all of the incredibly wound up Karens of Columbia when North Columbia got the new school, and people were screaming, oh, they're going to take all these kids from these neighborhoods, and they're going to get all this stuff, and they're just going to tear it up. And, it is by zip code, but a lot of kids did come in from different areas to fill that school. And, I guess maybe they've got the other schools maybe a little bit on the run, and they can turn that into a plus and just kind of be a Hulk of a team.
Dana, thank you for the phone call. 874-9390, 874-9390. By the way, the response from the school, North County, they've apologized. Hey, this is a teachable moment like we teach people. You shouldn't say things like this. Rick, welcome into the show. What's on your mind?
Well, the hallways of every school in Columbia, Missouri can be a dangerous place for certain children because of bullying. And I live in a small town north of Columbia, and I was in the park yesterday, and two young ladies and a younger boy came by and said, "Have you seen these guys?" and described them. I said, "Well, yeah, they're down there on the basketball court." And I said, "Why do you need to know?" And she said, "Because they bully this boy that's with us." And you could tell he wasn't a tough guy, maybe 9 years old and a little chubby. Bullying is going on, and I can't imagine what inner city schools in St. Louis are like, but there's a bullying factor that makes the hallways dangerous for a lot of children.
Dude, check this out. In St. Louis, when I was in St. Louis, I went to a preparatory high school that was within the public school system of St. Louis. And this is, I'm talking early 80s, 84, 85. We had a metal detector in the mid-80s at my school in St. Louis. So that's what they're like in the inner cities. Rick, we appreciate you being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
I would also say there's bullying in rural schools. There's no question about it. I experienced it myself in the suburbs of St. Louis. I mean, it goes on. I do think that the number one thing I'd emphasize, I don't know the context of what the young student said, but I will tell you again, I see students out at Battle High School all the time. They're cleaning they're working hard. Some of them work at jobs that I've dealt with and met them. They're also up cleaning the area up around Clark Lane at the roundabout. And
that's not community service work, is it?
Well, I mean, they're beautification, and maybe it's part of school, but the bottom line is they're there. So my experience with them has been positive. Now, of course, you could always have an issue with a student at any school, but I assume what that young man was saying about violent, when he clarified it and said the flags, I think he was trying to say they're penalized. What I don't know is that every game or just one game.
Look at what you just stepped in.
You are about to enter the no zone.
This is the O'Reilly Factor with Branden Rathert.
Yes, I hit Brandon with a stick.
Do I do this here? I was almost on time. We're making a concerted effort to be on time, but also making a concerted effort when we say we're going to fact check Joe Biden and tell you what Stephanie's kids did to embarrass the heck out of her at school yesterday. Honest, stick true. So do I have time to fact check Joe Biden here real quick, producer Hannah?
As long as it's snappy.
All right. So the O'Reilly Factor, that's where we take what politicians, journalists say, run it through the BS meter to see how true or how false it is. Joe Biden fact-checking something Joe Biden said just a couple of days ago.
And in 41 states, plus the District of Columbia, the average gasoline price is less than $2.99.
According to the White House, that's not true. White House had to send out a corrected statement the next day. Say, by the way, we had this guy from the Oval, Joe. Joe got up and he said some things, and he said 41 states do not have average gas prices below $2.99. That's your O'Reilly Factor this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up, Daily D. Actually, we're going to do the Morning Bell business news with that little twist. Morning of the Daily DC Rundown.
The thing.
Good morning. It's 8:27. Time for the Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
So yesterday, the S&P 500 closed at a new low for 2022. So if you haven't looked at your accounts, this isn't a good week for that. But we're going to bring you the good news today. And I saw this post on LinkedIn. Actually, we were talking about LinkedIn earlier from the governor. And he said, hey, check us out. Missouri's doing pretty well. And so this thing that talks about Midwest startups has all of these fun rankings about cities. And they've got kind of like 15 states here in the Midwest. And they look at startup activity, access to resources, and business climate. And every year kind of assess, hey, what's going on? And they really highlight the Midwest as being kind of an opportunity, all the things that happened during COVID, all the remote work, the cheap living, all of these great things happening. And we're saying, hey, people are really have an eye toward the Midwest, and it's really showing up in some of these things that we're ranking. But Missouri did relatively well. So they're looking at cities, again, across 15 states. We have 5 cities that rank. St. Louis, number 5. Kansas City, 11. Columbia, 22. This is out of 15 states. Columbia's hitting 22, and that's up 5 rankings from last year. So Columbia doing really well. Springfield in at 37 and Jefferson City at 53.
So 2 of those cities right here where we live, Jeff City and Columbia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So they're saying, they're looking at, business startup funding and then like the success of business and just the overall climate. So really, and startup activity. And we know, Kansas City, I think of Kansas City as kind of like the cooler, more startup city, but St. Louis has a lot of that incubator. They've got a lot of cool projects going on, as much as, we like to give them grief. But, you think about some companies you've heard about in Columbia, not only, VU, I don't know that you can really classify it as a startup right now, but a fairly new business, Equipment Share. There's some other really interesting things going on in Columbia, a really healthy entrepreneurial vibe in Columbia. And I think that's, it's being recognized and showing up. And I think the more publicity we get out there, regionally, because other folks are looking at this and they're thinking, hey, I got money, I got startup, where should I put my resources? This is good news for us.
And then again, you can't get a much sweeter spot if you're talking the area's 2 biggest cities, Jefferson City and Columbia. You can't get a much sweeter spot than Ashland. And you look at some of the things that are happening there. Facts. Coming up 5 minutes from now, what Stephanie's kids did to embarrass her yesterday, and why SEC College Game Day isn't coming to Columbia this weekend.
Good times. Easy credit ripoffs.
Yes.
Dynamite.
Ain't we lucky we got 'em. Good times.
I think Houseworth should do that every single Feel Good Friday. Offhanded moment on the show this past Feel Good Friday. He was talking about some tribute for the TV show Good Times that he'd seen the night before. We pulled up the theme song for the show, and this dude just, unbeknownst, I didn't know Brian had it in him. Did you all even know that Brian could sing?
No, that was pretty good, though.
Hannah, had you ever heard Brian sing?
No, I hadn't.
That's crazy. Marsh, you've been knowing him for like 38 years. Did you?
Here he comes.
There he is. Yeah. Brian, we've made a decision.
Yeah.
Since you weren't here, we want this to happen every single Feel Good Friday on the show.
Good times. Easy credit ripoffs.
Yes.
Dynamite.
Ain't we lucky we got 'em. Good times. I'm no John Amos there, but
I have to know, though, Brian. So if someone hands you the karaoke mic, what's your song?
I don't really have one. My
Really?
dad is more into that, but that actually just was very spontaneous. I really enjoyed it. I almost got a little choked up even talking about it that day on the air, but it was a lot of fun.
Could you be spontaneous like every Friday about 8:10?
Maybe here and there. It's just it's hard to. I'm not very good at that, but
no, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I did have fun. I had fun with it, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's something I can do regularly. But when it feels right, you'll know it. So that wasn't even planned. But
well, could you make it feel right this Friday at 8:10?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't
Soap
know.
opera theme songs. We got you, Brian.
We could sing soap opera theme songs. We could sing Love Boat.
I like, although there's no. I don't think there's any words to it. The what was it? The Young and the Restless. Is that the one we?
Nadia's theme.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was all good. I appreciate it. We had a good day. I just actually got a call from a listener, and that's why I was a few seconds waiting getting in. Just some information about the hospital there in Mexico. He liked the interview that we did. Gave us some more information about the situation up there. It's very concerning. We'll continue to stay on top of it, and Sarah did a really nice job on that.
So the story referring to the hospitals that closed in Fulton and in Mexico, Sarah Jane Tribble, who's been following these stories for well over a year now, was detailing the stories of our fellow Mid-Missourians, like when this Noble came in and shut these places down, lost the jobs, couldn't get money. It's just been insane.
That's a great song.
There's no words to it, though.
It's powerful.
Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. That's our crooner, Brian Houseworth.
Henry Mancini, by the way, the gentleman. And you're right, Nadia's song. I believe she was a gymnast in the 70s.
And they did this. It was the TV theme song for the Young and the Restless. You know, there are still a couple of soap operas on the TV.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I think one. I don't think they call it General Hospital anymore, but it's on because we keep KMIZ on just in case they break in with news. I want to see Lucas, but it's either General Hospital or it's something else. But a lot of the characters, when you and I were growing up, they're still on there. Duke Lavery. I don't know if his name is still Duke Lavery. Anna Devane. I mean, some big names.
Are they just propped up in the corner on set, or
no? It's them. It's definitely them. I mean,
John, did your parents ever rope you into watching this? There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Marsh, who used to watch General Hospital, is there. There's producer Hannah.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. Glad you could be here. So this bums me out. So SEC College Game Day, man, they were getting ready to come to see us here in Mid-Missouri. Saturday, we got a night game against Georgia. By the way, get onto our websites. 939theeagle.com and KWOS.com, because we're doing these Tiger tailgates all season long. And here's the deal. So whenever there's a home game, we do Tiger tailgates. And is what you do is you can go, and it's put on, by the way, our friends from Culligan of Mid-Missouri, Bud Light, High Noon Hard Seltzers, Buffalo Wild Wings. But you go to places like in Columbia. You can go to Big O Tires. You can also go to the Big O Tires in Jefferson City. And there's some other places. You can go to Casper 66 in Lynn. And usually Wednesdays about lunchtime, we have the free Tiger Tailgate passes out. You just go and say, hey, can I get some Tiger Tailgate passes? They're free. They give them to you. And then you show up 2 hours prior to kickoff. Great food, great drink, every Saturday home game. All season long. So
I will be there this weekend.
Really? All right. Number 1 Georgia coming to town.
They're really good.
Yeah. So Hannah will be there. The SEC network, however, will not be there. They were going to do SEC game day, and they were all booked and everything, apparently. They had their tickets, and they were getting their little itinerary, and they probably called the Columbia Chamber of Commerce, hey, we're going to be there for a few days. What can we do for fun besides Rockbridge State Park? Because we've been there and we've done that. What else can we do? And they canceled their trip. And the reason they gave, it was, I think it wasn't just that we lost to Auburn. It was how we lost to Auburn.
There's no doubt. I mean, and they may have phrased it a little bit differently, but there is no doubt. It's kind of disappointing. You like to get that kind of exposure. It's not the marquee game day that the normal audience has with Kirk Herbstreit and Lee Corso and Desmond Howard, but it's still really, I think Reese Davis is the host this year. It's still really, really good, and they do a good job. Feinbaum is really somebody that I think is kind of a draw on that, and he also does his radio show. But they're going to, I don't understand. I mean, they're going to the Ole Miss game. I'm not so sure that's much of a better game. Yeah. No, they're not. They're not going to that one, which that in Fayetteville, John, would be a big game. It'd be nice to see them here. Of course, they've been here before, and Tim Tebow's part of that show.
Yeah,
too.
and it would be cool because it's just good for I think, mid-Missouri. Anytime you get some TV coverage, besides for something silly, it's like we were asking the mayor of Jefferson City, Carrie Tergin. John, I think she's into my idea about getting in a reality home makeover show to fix those homes on Capitol.
There we go.
Mark Alford running for that 4th congressional district seat currently held by Hartzler. By the way, was looking at polling this morning, Senate race right now for what polls are worth. Schmidt with an easy lead over Trudy Bush Valentine, who we did reach out to be on the show the other day. Sent an email to her campaign. Haven't heard back. Also haven't heard back from the Missouri Department of Revenue because I'm cranky about this thing. And they came and said, this thing to return in your gas tax receipts, it's really easy to do. You can do it online, and it's not easy. And I'm glad to know, John, I wasn't, because Hannah's right.
Now, okay, I haven't tried to get on this website, but knowing how you are with computers, just because something wasn't easy for you on the computer doesn't mean it's not easy for someone else.
It's very likely I could be doing it wrong, but I went through it twice, and it's not that easy. Marsh, you had the same experience? Yeah. So the collection of the receipts, all that stuff was fine. It's just going to submit. Then you had to file for a tax account, and then you go through that whole rigmarole, signs you off, sign in with your new password, say what do you want to file for. The options, it didn't give you options for gas tax receipts. It's
and the deadline's coming up for that.
Yeah, it is Friday, I think. The end of September.
Wayne Wallingford basically said it would be, and I've had complaints from listeners that have had similar issues to what you and John did. But Wayne Wallingford said the number one thing they wanted to do there at DOR was improve customer service, and I think they've clearly tried to focus on that. They probably don't have enough employees.
Yeah, and they don't have a phone number on there, by the way.
And a lot of elderly people don't have internet access, so they need to be able to, that phone number should be on the site.
So yesterday at school, a lot of these schools, I know Helias did it last week. Some other schools in the area, they have these themed weeks. And I think for Helias, it was like an 80s week. They went to school one day dressed up as the women from the Golden Girls, and it was 80s music, then a Footloose day. Men Without Hats, Safety Dance. Oh, God, yeah. But there's other schools around that are doing that.
Yeah, this week is Southern Boone's homecoming week, so they've got Spirit Week. And I think the high schoolers were doing something which I thought was cool. I think it was Adam Sandler Day, which I found amusing.
Nice.
But the younger kids, they said, hey, it's Hat Day. And, in my house, I have the pleasure of being here with the Wake Up family in the morning. So I have to rely on my husband to help out with whatever homecoming week, Spirit Week is what they like to call it. So yesterday was Hat Day, right? And any normal person, you think, what are they going to wear, right? Like Chiefs hats.
Pirates hat.
Cowboy hat, maybe.
Cowboy hat, right. Sent both of my daughters, kindergarten and third grade, showed up with homemade tinfoil hats to school for Hat Day. And I just have to, apparently, and I just have to wonder, like everyone else is coming in with the baseball hat and the cowboy hat, and what the look. I want to know what the look on the teacher's face was when little kindergarten Eden showed up with a tinfoil.
So what was the shape of the hat? Was it?
Oh, it was like the
Just a bowl
traditional
on their head, or was it a ball cap style?
Did it look like the same one Glenn Beck wears?
Yeah, pretty much.
Glenn Beck is on 93.9 The Eagle, noon to 2. So your kid, I'm trying to think of the teacher here and your kids, knowing your kids, man, because your kids are insane in a good way. And I can just envision your kids showing up in foil hats in kindergarten, Southern Boone School District.
Well, and it's a small town, so I'm sure some of the teachers know what Stephanie does for half of her living. And they're probably like, yep, sounds about right.
I told Chris that. I'm like, people already think we're a little bit weird. Like, then you do this to us, our poor kids.
Mrs. Smith over there talking. Did you see the Bell kids? Yeah, I think I'm calling her pair. I'm calling her, her mom. She's on that radio show.
Anyway, for the folks that were at school yesterday, I hope you got a good chuckle.
So what did the oldest wear? Did he opt out of the tinfoil hat?
Oh, it was a celebrity day, and he couldn't decide. So he decided he wanted to go. I think he was technically Ronald Reagan. And so he wore a tuxedo. He likes dressing up. So he wore a suit. And then I think it morphed to any celebrity ever at an award show. But I think he's really, he's getting into the age where he wants to impress, I think, little girls.
Ooh.
And, wearing a suit to school, you're looking real cool, So I think he was doing one of those.
It's pretty impressive. 10-year-old kid in a suit.
11, but yeah.
Even more impressive. He's 11. Coming up, let's peek in the fridge. Look in our refrigerator, see what we have by the way of leftovers here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, before we get into the Gary Nolan Show, I'd like to open up our refrigerator and see what we have in the way of leftovers. And you know how it is whenever you open the fridge at your house. Sometimes you might get some good stuff. Other times it's just stuff. One of the things I do want to lead off with Sharon Watson, American Red Cross, Missouri and Arkansas, chatting with ABC 17. So this Florida hurricane very likely going to be hitting the Tampa area all along Florida's west coast, scraping Cuba right now. But then we have a lot of folks, even from mid-Missouri. I think of Task Force 1, whose home base is the Boone County Fire Protection District. Gail Blomenkamp and his crew there. What they do, these guys go all across, these young men and women go all across the country and helping out during times of natural disasters. American Red Cross setting up shop too.
We here in Missouri, Arkansas region sent out about 20 people over the weekend, and then making sure we have people close who are ready to move in as soon as the storm hits and open those shelters.
Pretty magnificent undertaking, because you got to go in, you got to set up. You have all these volunteers for cleanup. You have volunteers because they need blood. You have volunteers, power linemen, people like that. And you're trying to put them all into a place where they've told everybody to get out of their homes because they're evacuating. It can be a pretty hefty undertaking.
And it potentially has political ramifications. I mean, beyond, the seriousness of the case. But, DeSantis hasn't really been through one of these before. And so he could really come out the hero, or, it could really cause him a blunder.
Could go, yeah, because right now in all polling, even like Trump in Florida, if DeSantis and Trump were to run in 2024, right now DeSantis leads for what polls are worth, but right now he leads there. What's in your fridge?
Well, following up on our story yesterday about Noble Health, it's being reported that former Senator Jay Wasson, who ran in that 7th Congressional District primary, came in second, has also filed a lawsuit against Noble Health Audrain. Apparently, he had a $500,000 promissory note that Noble Health has failed to pay back, so they're in litigation. But a lot of stuff going on there, none of it good.
Yeah, and that's in this conversation we had yesterday with Sarah Jane Tribble. She is a reporter for Kaiser Health News. She's been following this for about a year, and just the way that Noble has apparently done some of these local folks. I mean, it's just a heartbreaking story. You can hear that in the Wake Up Mid-Missouri podcast. You can go to KWOS.com or 939theeagle.com. And she was on 8 o'clock hour yesterday. Mr. Marsh, do you have any leftovers? Yeah. Do you, every time this comes up, I think, it's horrible. And you see the pictures of this kid before and after. I mean, comatose, brain dead, all that stuff. I mean, the kid's a shell of himself. But I also don't know that we should be going and holding these other frat brothers responsible for actions which he chose to take part in that night. But folks get all upset. Well, I'm not being sensitive enough, and I get it. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's. Oh, did you pledge?
Whoa, I didn't know this about you.
Man. So did they make you do that stuff, or did you choose to do that stuff? Yeah. And see, that's what I always think. I just don't think it's right to go and try, because that's the playbook for, let's blame somebody else. It's not your fault. Let's blame somebody else. And it's the same thing with the bartender who overserves somebody at a bar. I don't think or a drug dealer, whenever they sell drugs to somebody and they overdose, and as ugly as that is, I don't think we should hold the drug dealer accountable.
But a panel of folks, a grand jury here in Boone County thinks that we should.
Yep.
I don't know all the facts.
You are correct. Coming up, it's my dad's favorite part of the day. It is the Gary Nolan Show here on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS.